Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I am Judah. Let's talk about the 1959 sci-fi horror classic known as Manster. You heard me correctly. I said Manster. Not fully man and not fully monster. It's Manster. I'm going to take every opportunity I can to say Manster because that's about the only entertaining thing about this movie. That's a lie. There was some good stuff in here, but in general, it's just your typical, sci-fi horror from the 50s. And I enjoy those things. So anybody going into this hoping to get something more than what that is, just stop, because it's not going to happen and you're going to be very disappointed. But if you're like me, and I did not start watching horror until like 8 years ago, but the introductions that I did have before becoming a horror fan or fanatic were with Svengoolie. And these are the kind of movies that Svengoolie would play, or Elvira or something like that. But I was not watching Elvira. I was watching Svengoolie. So this touches that, nostalgia type thing in me. I enjoy what we might call now dated practical effects. I find enjoyment in that. So, as I mentioned, this was made in 1959. It is an American film, but it was filmed in Japan. Most of the crew was Japanese. They also have several Japanese actors. Two main ones. I read that they searched quite extensively to find some that spoke English, not just as a second language, but it was very, very well spoken English. And I think they did quite a good job. Now, this story is about a foreign correspondent for a newspaper. His name is Larry. He's living in Japan. He's ready to head back home to New York to be with his wife because it's been far too long. But he's given one last assignment before he gets on that plane and shoots back to New York. There's some scientist, and they think that this might be a good story. He has some information about evolution of man. So Larry heads up onto this dormant volcano, whereas the scientist has his laboratory, to go talk to him, to find out what it is that this man has discovered about evolution. He goes up there, he meets the scientist's attractive assistant, who it's always alluded to was picked off the street, possibly a prostitute. That's what I'm assuming, but they never fully say it. It's always just said in a threatening tone of, do you want to go back to where I found you? And she's like, no, I don't ever want to go back to that life. It's very much alludes to the fact that she was a prostitute. This reporter goes up there, he's talking to the scientist, and he's like, well, do you have any proof or any of this? And the scientist is like, nah, it's all just data I've written down. And Larry's like, well, it doesn't sound like there's much that I can do. And the scientist is like, how long have you been here? And he's like, oh, a few years, but I'm ready to head back home to my wife, once again reinforcing his desire to get back home and be with his wife. And then the scientist starts getting quite probing with his questions. He says, Larry, I can call you Larry, correct? How old are you? Larry's like, 35. And I'm like, BS, you're 45 at least. Well, I looked up. This actor was born in 21, and this film came out in 39, not 39, in 59. So he was in fact 38. So he was definitely closer to 35 than 45, but does not look it. He does not look it. The man looks mature beyond his age. Anyway, then the scientist is like, good. Have you ever had any major illnesses? No, I can't say that I have had any major illnesses. This sounds like you're recruiting for the army or something. What's this all about? Oh, I'm just a scientist. When I meet people, I'm interested. I want to know about their development. Excuse me for my probing questions. You said you're married, but you've been here for a few years. Have you tasted any of the local cuisine. Well, yeah, there's this really great restaurant by the office that I go to every afternoon. They have this fantastic... That's not what I'm asking. The No Pants Cha-Cha. The Bone Zone. Netflix and chill. Sex, man. Have you had sex with anybody? Now, look here, sir. That's a little personal. But no, I've been a good boy. Excellent. I mean, I'm glad that you have such a good relationship with your wife and you're being faithful to her. That's perfect. What the frick? Weird. Okay. Anyway, he goes on, the scientist, to be like, let's celebrate the fact that you've been faithful to your wife. Let's have a drink. And Larry's all like, that sounds good, because most people like celebrating the fact that we've been faithful to our spouses. So they have a drink, but really the scientist has slipped him a Mickey. So Larry falls asleep and the scientist runs down. He's talking to his assistant and he's like, this dude's perfect. He's American. He's 35, hasn't had any diseases. He doesn't know what Netflix and chill means. So this guy is perfect for this science experiment. And his assistant's like, look, man, your last 2 experiments have gone horribly wrong. They've murdered people. They look hideous. Can we not do this again? And the scientist is like, bitch, you want to go back where I found you? Working at McDonald's? Flipping burgers? And she's like, not really. And he's like, okay, we're doing this. So he goes upstairs and he injects Larry in the shoulder with the serum. It's supposed to increase or speed up our evolutionary skill. Anyway, the movie progresses on. It goes to some scene that most people, if you've watched me a few times, you know that I kind of like to go to IMDb and read a couple of the reviews that don't necessarily fall in line with how I see this movie. And I went there and I was reading some of the reviews, but they're all very boring, so I'm not going to do that. But most people refer to you seeing this as a child, not remembering the name of the movie, but being freaked out by a particular scene that had to do with an eyeball coming out of a person's shoulder. And that's literally like a majority of the reviews there feel like they hinge on these 2 things. I saw it as a kid, can't remember the name, but it had some kind of crazy, freaky eyeball in the shoulder that has tormented me since I was a child. So that scene occurs. All spoilers, since I already spoiled the eyeball in the shoulder. It was very T-virus-ish. Also, Army of Darkness. It was very, very Bruce Campbell, Army of Darkness, but obviously this comes way before. So if anything, Sam Raimi stole from Manster. Army of Manster. So Larry, after getting this injection, his personality has changed drastically. And instead of being excited to get home to his wife that he loves, he's kind of all like, look, I've been here being a good guy, going out, getting these stories, writing for you. And before I go home, by golly, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to sow some wild oats. And he starts getting drunk. He starts visiting these geisha places. And, it's really out of character. His friend and boss starts getting concerned for him. His wife flies over to Japan. There's a confrontation between Larry, his girlfriend, his wife, and his friend. It's very uncomfortable. His wife is like, look, bro, you got to come home. Make your choice now. It's either the girlfriend or me. And he's all like, peace. And he gets his girlfriend and he leaves. But his wife is madly in love, like every wife in the 50s. So this pining wife decides to stick around, hoping that she can win Larry back. Does it go the way that she hopes? I don't know. As you awkwardly watch me pull lint out of my pocket and throw it in the trash can behind me, that is what I am doing. Anyway, before I continue giving you a line-by-line reading of this movie, let's check out this trailer.
Larry!
Manster. Just a side note, I watched a colorized version of this, and it was not a great colorized version of it. Anyway.
From the exotic geisha houses of Tokyo to the back alleys of the Ginza Strip comes the terrifying news of a fiendish creature that threatens to destroy all who stand in his way. This is the frightening story of an American reporter in Tokyo who unwittingly became the victim of...
That is Larry. For all of you who are curious, this is the reporter.
A shocking scientific experiment that turned him into a horrible mutant, half man, half monster.
You see that? That's foreshadowing. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but that looks like the perfect place for an eyeball to randomly appear. I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there that if I was going to grow another eyeball, that seems like the perfect place to grow it. I'm just saying.
The Manster. What happened? He got away. I think I know where he's going. It's Harris. Follow me. Right.
The guy in the trench coat is actually like a police officer. And the guy who just said, follow me, is just some kind of news reporter. I do like the camaraderie between the news reporters and the police. And I also like how the police are just like, oh, you think you know where it's going down? Cool. You give the orders. We'll follow. Wait, is it okay if we shoot? Which, side note, so Larry's wife is back, right? So they start suspecting things. Oh my gosh, I just remembered stuff mind-blowing that I have to share with you. Okay, so Larry is starting to experience the transformation. His hand is getting all monstrous, okay? He's getting more, and he doesn't know. His brain is kind of battling as well. And he's walking on the streets, and he sees this line of monks that are kind of chanting, walking, and he follows them, and he goes into this temple. And there's a monk sitting there doing his prayer, and Larry's over to the side with his hand tucked in his jacket, because it's all scary looking. And Larry's like, starts talking out loud. Yeah, I heard you singing. I heard you singing. And the monk's kind of like, what? Oh, and he looks over, and I like I said before 3 other times, I heard you singing, and I came in here, and I don't know, I'm just I'm confused, and there's something in me, and I gotta get it out of me, and and then the monk's kind of just like, bro, I don't know what you're saying, and he goes back to his chanting, which apparently this frustrates Larry. And then Larry kills him. So this is the first death that occurs. It's reported in the news that a monk has been murdered. Now, Larry's friend, and I think is the editor-in-chief, that's what I'm gathering, finds Larry sulking in some kind of cafe. It's in the morning, and he's already drinking. And he comes up, and he's like, dude, what is wrong with you? He's like, shut up, I'll do what I want. He's like, look, man, you still have a job, but you only have it for so long. I'm not going to put up with this forever. So get your crap together and get back to work. And as he's talking with him, he sees that Larry has some prayer beads on his wrist. And he's like, Larry, where did you get those prayer beads? And he's like, I got it out of the vending machine. Okay, leave me alone. What does it matter? And he's like, but I've never seen you with anything like that before. And he's like, yeah, well, I found religion. Go suck it. Okay, very confrontational. So then his friend starts thinking, That's weird. He starts suspecting Larry. But he doesn't want to believe it. Then later on, he's looking through Larry's house when Larry's not there. Great friend, by the way. And he opens up this little case and he finds those prayer beads again, which why finding them again, it doesn't make sense. He's already seen. It brings back his suspicions and he grabs the beads and he pockets them. Then he goes to talk to this police officer. He's like, look, man, I got some bad news. I found these prayer beads in Larry's house, so I'm pretty sure he's the guy who's been killing everybody. The police officer actually has some sense, and he's like, look, bro, lots of people have prayer beads around here. I don't necessarily think that means that Larry's killing people. And his friend's like, I don't know, bro. I've never known Larry to have prayer beads. It seems pretty obvious to me that he's turning into a monster and killing people because have you seen his wife? He's going crazy. His wife is a hot piece of meat. Why would he leave her? It all makes sense. He's leaving his hot wife. He has prayer beads. He's clearly the murderer. Once again, this police officer is like, look, man, that's just not enough. I need more evidence before we haul off your friend and arrest him just simply so that you can, get on with his wife. We're going to need a lot more. Anyway, then there's this interaction with the wife and the police officer. And the wife is like, sir, can I ask a favor of you? And the police officer is like, ma'am, are you going to ask me not to shoot to kill? And she's like, yes, please. And he's like, nope. So we go on. The movie goes on. I forgot we're watching a trailer. Let's get back to the trailer.
There's panic in the streets as the unheard of terror of a half man, half monster runs wild through the city.
It's a Manster.
There he goes! Don't miss the Manster, a genuine thriller in the most frightening sense of the word.
Okay. Let me take this off. So Manster, it's a silly, 1950s sci-fi horror that I enjoyed. I won't watch it again. I'm not going to push it on people saying you need to see this, but this is for those people who enjoy those 1950s, throwback movies that have, dated special effects. And that's exactly what they are. They're dated. But there are some very creative ways that they hide some of the effects. At the end, spoilers, once again, spoilers. At the end, Larry is starting to split into two personalities. This serum that he has been given, it has awakened the primitive side of him, the violent lizard brain, and it's separating. He has a second head that has grown out of him, and he's going around, he's killing people. In the climax of this movie, he starts to feel extreme pain, and he runs behind this tree, which it seems very silly because we all know what is occurring, but it was a fun way to hide the practical effects. So he hides behind this tree. It's not a huge tree. It's about this big around, just enough to hide the fact that there are two people now. And this is where they show him splitting into two. One back to the normal Larry, or I don't know, normal, a more human type Larry, and the other, a primitive Larry, which is very ape and monster-esque. They split into two. And this ape type creature is super violent. He sees his Japanese girlfriend and he grabs her and chucks her into this freaking volcano. That to me was like totally out of the blue. It didn't make any sense to me. And then the human Larry wakes up, witnesses that the ape Larry has committed this crime, and then he runs over and they're fighting, they're tussling on the ground. At this point, Larry's wife, his friend, and a whole bunch of police are coming up, and they somewhat see what is occurring, him tussling with this monster. And then Larry pushes the monster into the volcano. Then Larry passes out. Okay, they gather him up. They carry him off on a stretcher, which is hilarious. He's supposedly on the stretcher, but the stretcher looks like it's completely empty. It doesn't look like it has anybody in the stretcher. It's very funny to me. It looks like just a bunched up blankets on a stretcher that these cops are carrying down. Then the cop, the wife, and the friend who wants to get with the wife. It's just my theory. It's my theory. He seems like a good friend that is concerned about Larry, but then it's kind of like, bro, why are you pushing so hard? I don't know. I guess I would too. I guess if I knew my friend was going around killing people, I would. I'd turn him in. Anyway, so the police officer is talking to the wife and Larry's friend, and the wife is like, I'm kind of confused. I don't know. She's like, did Larry do those horrible things, or did that monster do those horrible things? And the cop, it has the most sense throughout this whole movie. This cop does. First of all, he's all like, look, man, we can't just go kill somebody because he has prayer beads. We need more evidence. Okay. Then we will just randomly shoot at him. Okay. So there's a sequence here. Prayer beads does not equal let's go kill him. Prayer beads and him running away from us. Now we can randomly shoot at him. Okay? We got to take the steps here. Anyway, the cop says to her, I'm glad we got him back safe. But when he wakes up, I am going to have to arrest and prosecute him. Okay, so I like the fact that they did not gloss over. There wasn't just some kind of, oh, look, the monster separated from Larry. It wasn't Larry who did it. It's all good. Hooray. Let's all live happily ever after. Larry's back with his wife. No, there was still like, hey, I know this happened, but there's still consequences. I like that because a lot of movies just ignore that completely. That part is ignored, and you're just left to be like, things happen, things work out, it's all good. Then Larry's wife and his friend start talking. Again, she mentioned the whole confusion, not knowing what it is, and his friend goes on some, weird, speaking deep theological and introspective about, I don't know, maybe Larry's like really a good man, and it was just the evil that was brought up inside of him, and really Larry is innocent, and just like all of us are really inherently good. And anyway, it was a bunch of just like word salad in my opinion, but it does bring up a good point that is not totally addressed. If Larry in his natural form before serum was this balance of a moral man versus his primitive nature that took less moral insight, was more about urges and instinct. If that was separated, then what was left was nothing but a moral, innocent man. And now this man that has had all of that evil or, prehistoric lizard brain that functions only on emotion potentially or, instinct has been removed. All you have left is Larry that is fully functional and would be one of the greatest members of society ever because he's had that bad part of him removed. And now this man is going to be thrown in prison. probably one of the greatest people in the world now, because the evil has been removed, is now going to go to prison. And that just sucks. In the end, I'm only going to give this a 4 out of a 10. This is only for people who enjoy going back and watching these great, in my opinion, these fantastic, great 1950s sci-fi horror. This is for you. If you like those, watch Manster, which is also known by other names like The Split or The Two-Headed Killer. But Manster seems to be the most prevalent name out there. I actually found it on YouTube under the title Tokyo Mutation, but they cut out like the first 5 minutes of the movie, which made the movie slightly confusing, not seeing that first 5 minutes. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm Judah. This has been Creeping It Real. That was Manster. If you've seen it, if that eyeball has haunted you since childhood, please leave a comment below. I would appreciate it. If you have any suggestions, also leave those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.